Well, hello, everybody. I am so excited today to introduce you to Dr. Peter Glidden, who is a naturopathic doctor and an author, and has been using holistic methods and treating patients for over 30 years. He is a very outspoken advocate in holistic health, and his newest book, which is called Attempt to Cure, which we will discuss later, is going to be a great guide for you to be able to improve your health. So today we are going to be discussing two major topics that are really close to my heart, and I can't even wait for you guys to hear Dr. Glidden. He will blow you away, as I was when I first learned about him. And every single time I listen to him and his lectures, and I listen to his patients talk about how they have helped him, I'm just in awe every single time. So without further ado, I just can't wait for you guys to hear him. Welcome, Dr. Glidden. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to have you with me.
Well, Terry Dale, it's a pleasure. People like us need to stick together, or as my cousin, I think he's my second cousin, 6 times removed, Benjamin Franklin. Remember what he said? We must all hang together, or most assuredly, we will hang alone.
Yeah, you're known for your quotes for sure. But I want to start just by saying that I want to get the information out, and I want you to talk about this specifically because so many people really don't know the difference between a medical doctor and a naturopath, which is what you do. And I get so much pushback when I had cancer. Of course, I went the holistic route, and I kind of was not very well liked with that, which is why I wrote a book about it. But I want you to talk about that because you are a naturopath for over 30 years, and you have been super successful, and there's science behind it. It's like actual fact. So I want you to just address that to my audience because they would love to hear your opinion on that, and not your opinion, but the facts on it. So really great. That's a great part. It's a great jumping off point. So here's the deal. So the initials after my name are ND. And in order to become, it stands for naturopathic doctor. In order to become a naturopathic doctor in the United States, you have to do 4 years pre-med, 4 years at a fully accredited naturopathic medical school. There are currently 6 in North America, fully accredited naturopathic medical school. You have to secure about 1,000 hours of clinical supervision. Then you have to graduate. Then you have to pass national boards and state boards, secure a license to practice naturopathic medicine, and then in the great state of Minnesota, where you live and I am currently licensed to practice naturopathic medicine, you need 25 hours of continuing education credit every year. It's a full-blown primary care medical practice. However, it is still the low person on the totem pole because naturopathic medicine currently is only licensed and regulated in 20 states in the United States. Minnesota is one of them, thank God. Right.
So what does that mean? Does that mean that the laws of science and the laws of nature and the laws of medicine change if you cross a state line? No. It means that when it comes to the practice of medicine, it's a turf war. And it's always been a turf war. And in 1912, Congress gave exclusive control to the American Medical Association to decide who could and who couldn't practice medicine in 1912. And the medical doctors, with pharmaceutical money from the Carnegies and the Rockefellers, took over the practice of medicine, and the chiropractors and the naturopaths and the herbalists and everybody else got kicked off of the bus of medicine. And that's why the only system of medicine that's practiced at your hospital is MD medicine. The only medicine that your insurance pays for, by and large, is MD-directed medicine. The only medicine that your university does research on is MD-directed medicine. And, the only medicine they make TV shows about is MD-directed medicine. It's not because the medical doctors are better at what they do. In many cases of chronic illness, they're really bad at what they do. The reason that the medical doctors are everywhere all of the time is because they legislated themselves there. They kicked everybody else off the bus. It was a hostile takeover of medicine. Mm-hmm. And it's been in place for so long that most people who are alive today, well, there's nobody alive today that was alive before 1912, right?
Right.
So everybody in our generation has grown up inside of the medical monopoly. And it's such an overarching concept that we don't even know that it's a monopoly.
Right.
Right. This is where the term alternative came from. I don't practice alternative medicine. Calling what I do alternative is like saying, well, The only real dog is a German Shepherd, and every other dog is an alternative dog. Right? That's nonsense. But that's exactly what we think, kind of what we've been socialized to believe when it comes to medicine. Now, your medical doctor may be the nicest person that God ever created, but your medical doctor does not know what's best for you. Your medical doctor only knows what they've been trained in.
Mhm.
And what they've been trained in isn't medicine. Nobody's trained in medicine. Medicine is a gigantic umbrella. Your medical doctor has been trained in a very specific type of medicine. I have been trained in a very specific type of medicine. Chiropractors, a very specific type. Osteopaths, homeopaths, acupuncturists, right? All different ways up the mountain of medicine, different paths. Now, the MD is trained and practices allopathic medicine.
Mhm.
And allopathic medicine is based upon the notion, it's built upon Newtonian physics, which is the physics of Sir Isaac Newton. And Newtonian physics argues that if it can't be measured, it doesn't exist. So since nobody's ever dissected the soul or the spirit out of a human body or seen it with an X-ray or an MRI or a CT scan, doesn't exist.
Mhm.
So to the allopathically trained medical doctor, our bodies are bags of biochemicals waiting to break. Consciousness itself is a function of biochemistry. When the body dies, it's lights out, game over. There's no such thing as God, no such thing as the spirit, no such thing as life after death. All of those things are fictions. So inside of this worldview that
Mhm.
your medical doctor is trained in,
Right.
the medical intervention is non-curative. So your medical doctor, I mean, bless their hearts, again, they're not trained to cure anything. I mean, you think about it. Of the thousands of prescription medications that are currently available, the only ones that cure anything are antibiotics, and those are starting to fail us. So your heartburn isn't cured, it's managed. Your arthritis isn't cured, it's managed. Your diabetes isn't cured, it's managed. Your cancer isn't cured, it's managed, and it's managed poorly, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the wheelhouse of allopathic medicine, what they're really, 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 really good at is trauma care,
Mhm.
surgery, and a handful of infectious diseases. I mean, heaven forbid you get your leg blown off in Iraq. You have a triple compound fracture because you're in an automobile accident, heaven forbid, and you've got blood spurting out of an artery. You get thee to the MD because they will save your life, and that's their wheelhouse. But for chronic illness, the things that most people go to the doctor for most of the time, blood pressure, energy, sleep, arthritis, blood sugar issues, obesity, right?
Right.
Your medical doctor, the therapeutics that they're trained in do not even attempt to cure the condition, and so you're managed. And as time goes by, you get worse. And then you need another drug or a third or a fourth drug. And look, I can prescribe drugs. It's
Mhm.
not the drug, it's how it's used. Thank God for Novocaine.
I think most people don't know that, Doc. I think that they think naturopaths are quacks and that they can't prescribe medication. So why would I ever go to them? Right.
Yeah. Well, see, that's because of the medical monopoly that's
Yeah.
existed for the last 100 years. And let's be honest, Terry,
Mhm.
most people don't even know how to pronounce naturopathy, let alone know what it is.
Right.
And you're absolutely correct. Most people have no idea that this is a legitimate, full-blown, licensed and regulated
Mhm.
primary care system of medicine. And so the fundamental kind of foundation that naturopathic doctors are trained in is we are trained to develop and deliver therapeutics which support and promote the body's built-in God-given ability to fix itself.
Mhm.
So we develop therapeutics that attempt to cure the condition.
Mhm.
We develop treatments that support the body's ability to fix itself. Because the fundamental naturopathic
Mhm.
philosophy is the human body knows how to fix itself. The human body wants to fix itself. The human body is trying all of the time to fix itself. And it's the naturopathic doctor's sacred obligation to develop and deliver therapeutics that support the body's built-in God-given ability to fix itself.
Yeah, and thank God for you guys. I mean, if it wasn't for you guys, I would have never been able to cure my cancer holistically. And here's the deal: I know you say that, that the medical wheelhouse is really good at surgery and trauma care. I get that, but I will tell you this: they weren't so good in my case with surgery because, first of all, when they went in the first time, they took out the wrong. They were supposed to remove my lymph node. By the way, if I would have known now if I would have known then what I know now, I wouldn't even had surgery.
Yeah,
But
I get it.
yeah, right. But when I did, because I was so scared, and they scare you into whatever, they were supposed to take out a lymph node. And you know what they did? They took out instead as a saliva gland. So I'm just saying, it's like I mean, they make mistakes. I get that, but.
Well, it's good to be the king. And,
right.
I mean, we see this all the time. I mean, everybody makes a mistake, but
right.
When medical doctors make mistakes,
oh, yeah,
they get a pass.
They get a pass. Right? Exactly true.
I mean, the leading cause of death in the United States.
Really?
MD-directed medical therapeutics. The leading cause of bankruptcy, MD-directed medical therapeutics.
Really?
While the medical in the United States, medical costs are the leading cause of bankruptcy. And, which begs the question, what's the most expensive type of medicine? It's the one that doesn't cure anything.
Right.
For goodness sakes. And yet, when the medical doctors fail us, they're not intentionally, right? But their therapeutics, they're not sufficient to the cause. Mm-hmm. When they bankrupt us, when they kill our loved ones, what do? We organize another 5K run, to come up with a cure for cystic fibrosis, and we give it to the people under whose tutelage and care we got the illness in the first place. Mm-hmm. And we only do this because we do not know that there are other licensed and regulated options because of the medical monopoly. And then this is a gigantic problem that we're facing.
Right. Well, you talk about this, you have a very strong message about the body is able to heal itself, and that's not the medical doctor's position. And I know, like when I had cancer, my body was able to heal itself doing, natural methods, holistic methods. And also, here's the real kicker is I felt so good while I was curing my disease, right? So when people were watching me, they were like, why don't you look sick? Don't you have cancer? They're picturing like, shouldn't you have your hair gone, and shouldn't you be walking around with a cane, and shouldn't you look sickly? Well, and I think that's such a strong message, and I wish people would just grasp onto that and know that why not try a holistic approach first? But you know why, right? Because they think they're God. They think
well, they think it's the only thing to do. And I mean, it's you walk into a hospital, it's very intimidating. It's a multi-million-dollar facility. There's all this high-tech stuff. There's all these people walking around who all believe the same thing. It's very much like a religion.
Yeah.
And, when it comes to cancer, I mean, the numbers are in. I mean, conventional.
Let's talk about that. The video that when I first heard about you was when I saw your video that you did on chemotherapy and how you stated that chemotherapy only works 97% or doesn't work 90% of the time, right?
Yeah, there was an Australian study that was published, and they did a retrospective analysis of tens of thousands of cancer patients and came to the conclusion chemotherapy is a bad expenditure of money for cancer because it just doesn't work. But I mean, it's not just that. And these are data from the Center for Disease Control, right? Small cell lung cancer survival rate, 95% of people who get that type of cancer are dead within 5 years of getting it, 95%. Ovarian cancer, 67% of people who get that are dead after 5 years. Pancreatic cancer, 98% of people who get it are dead. And this is with conventional treatment, by the way. This is with conventional treatment. Prostate cancer, 69% are dead after 5 years. Stomach cancer, 98% are dead after 5 years. I mean, these are the numbers presented by the Center for Disease Control, the American Cancer Society. It doesn't work. I mean, Novocaine works. I'm a big fan of Novocaine. Novocaine. Every time I'm in the dentist's office, I thank God for the guy who invented Novocaine. It's great. But conventional cancer treatment doesn't cure cancer. And to make it even more interesting and, quite frankly, intellectually insulting, because of this unbelievable failure rate when it comes to cancer, about 15 years ago, more or less, the American Cancer Society and the American Medical Association started using the term 5-year survivorship when they talk about cancer. Mm-hmm. So, most people, they'll get cancer, they'll go to their oncologist, and their oncologist will say, well, you've got prostate cancer, you have a 69% you have a 31% chance of surviving this illness. 31% chance of surviving this illness. And the patient thinks, well,
Right.
31%, that's pretty good. I'm going to roll those dice.
Right.
But what the oncologist means is there's a 31% chance that you're not going to die from prostate cancer within 5 years. That's what it means. It's a 5-year survivorship metric inside of which all cancer patients are treated. So if you have prostate cancer and you live for 5 years and 1 day, and then you die from prostate cancer, that's considered a successful outcome to the statisticians. And, most people on the street, they have no idea how to interpret medical statistics. They have no idea. They think that the people delivering the treatments are honest.
Right.
And, we go from bad to worse. And what we need desperately in the United States is a free medical market. We need insurance to pay for my type of medicine the same way that it pays for MD medicine.
Yes,
universities to do research with my type of medicine the same way that they do for allopathic medicine.
Hey, can you get on that? Can you fix that?
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Yeah, let's do it.
We need a free medical market because inside of a free medical market, people would gravitate towards what works.
Absolutely.
Right. But right now, it's kind of like, for most people in the United States, it's like the government passed a law that said, well, ladies and gentlemen, the only people that can sell hamburgers in your state are McDonald's. People wouldn't be okay with that. Oh, the only people that can sell gasoline in your state is ExxonMobil. Well, people wouldn't be okay with that. The only people that can sell automobiles in your state is Toyota. Nobody else gets to sell an automobile there. We'd pitch a fit.
Right.
But that's exactly the way that it's been with medicine.
Right.
But it's been that way for so long that people don't know it's that way.
Yeah.
People look around and they see their medical doctors are everywhere all the time, and they think that because the medical doctors are everywhere all their time, they must be better at what they do than everybody else. And that's a lie.
Yeah.
The only reason they're everywhere all the time is because they legislated themselves there. They kicked everybody else off the bus.
Yeah.
It was a hostile takeover of the system of medicine. It's been in place for 112 years.
Yeah, it's such a travesty too, because I know they would have paid $500,000 for me to have chemo, but do you think that they would have paid 1 penny for my hyperbaric chamber and my infrared sauna and all these and for you? No.
That's one of the ways
it's terrible
that the monopoly is maintained.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And also it might interest your listeners to understand that in the United States, you sitting down, ladies and gentlemen, I'd put something heavy on your head. It's about to explode.
Uh-oh.
The only thing that can treat a disease is a drug. In the United States, the only thing that can treat a disease is a drug. So if I discovered that, earthworm extract cured autism, the earthworm extract would be made into a drug, and you would be only able to get it with a pharmaceutical with a prescription. Which is also why when you go to the health food store and you look at vitamins and herbs and nutritional supplements, it's against the law for the manufacturer of that supplement to put a disease name on the label. Yeah. Because the only thing that can treat a disease is a drug. So you can't put on the blood sugar support, formula, diabetes treatment. That's against the law. You're going to go to jail. You can put blood sugar management. You can't put arthritis treatment, even though it's been proven in clinical trials published to be an effective treatment. You can't do that. And people are unaware of this. Nobody knows. And this is another way that the pharmaceutical industry and the medical doctors ensconce their place at the top. Yeah. Because they just make it impossible for anybody else to compete. And this is the reason why chronic illness is escalating. Autism has risen right now. It's like 1 out of 60. Yeah. Years ago, it was 1 out of 10,000. Alzheimer's now, right? It's risen from obscurity to the 6th leading cause of death in the United States. Heart disease, unchanged in incidence over the last 40 years. Arthritis, escalating. Type 2 diabetes, escalating. Obesity is a morbid epidemic in this country. And it all happened over the last 100 years while the medical doctors have been in control. It happened on their watch. It's their fault. They are the only industry
Hmm.
that fails and fails and fails and fails and fails and fails and bankrupts and fails again, and they still maintain their seat at the top. And it is because of gigantic pharmaceutical money and an entrenched political system that has so much inertia, it's going to take an act of God to overcome it.
Well, the only thing we can do is continue to spread the word like what we're doing. And speaking of disease, you know, as my wheelhouse is really helping people reverse their type 2 and prediabetes. And I know you're of the same position as me, where I'm 100%. Well, I know that type 2 and pre can be reversed because I've helped many clients do that. And I've actually learned from you a very specific protocol. It's about the 90 essential nutrients. You want to talk a little bit about that, how our body needs these 90 essential nutrients? And this is something I learned from you, and it's amazing. So I'd like you to talk about that and why our bodies need these 90 essential nutrients and how it's really critical in reversing any disease, but specifically pre and type 2 diabetes.
Well, you know, years ago, I think it was from the mid-'80s. I forget the dates exactly, but for 10 years, from the mid-'70s to the mid-'80s, a colleague of mine, Joel Wallach, was in charge of a $25 million study. And the result of that study took 10 years for the study to complete. I don't know how many autopsies they did, like 20,000 autopsies, millions of blood chemistries and histopathologies. That research wrote the book on medical nutrition. Literally, it's in the Smithsonian. I mean, have you ever heard of a chicken or a pig or a cow or a calf getting type 2 diabetes?
Right.
Or arthritis or congestive heart failure? No, you haven't because it doesn't happen. Because our household dog or cat or the livestock that's grown, 10 miles from your house are healthier than human beings are, because the people who are involved in this industry make sure that their animals get 100% of their nutritional needs every day in the food that they're given.
Right.
Humans don't get that. So the numbers are in. There are 90 nutrients which are considered essential to the health of the human body. And an essential nutrient is something that the body needs, but it cannot make it. Well, calcium is an essential nutrient, magnesium, vitamin A, vitamin B, omega-3 and omega-6 essential fatty acids. There are 90 essential nutrients that the human body needs just to work the way that nature and God intended it to, let alone fix itself. Just to maintain its position, there are 90 essential nutrients. The kicker is that these essential nutrients are not all present in the food chain. And because of the way that food is grown now, and interestingly enough, because of certain foods that we eat, the nutrients that the body needs are getting less and less and less and less saturated in the food that we eat. And some of the food that we eat, wheat, barley, rye, and oats specifically, leaches out of the body many of the essential nutrients that are already in there.
What?
So as time goes by, our bodies become less and less and less and less filled with the essential nutrients that they need to maintain their integrity. And this is the root cause of the majority of chronic diseases. In 1957, for goodness sakes, medical doctor, 60 years ago, a medical doctor named Walter Mertz proved and published that he could turn type 2 diabetes on or off in laboratory mice by withholding or delivering the trace mineral. You give blood sugar is normal, you remove, the little rodent gets type 2 diabetes. It's not genetic. It's a nutritional deficiency illness. And the diet that we eat has driven levels in the food into the gutter. But your medical doctor, who is in charge of your health care, has no training, no appreciation, no respect, and no clinical experience with medical nutrition. Zero. Nada. Niet. They get nothing. They don't know any of this.
Oh, but doctor, I just can go on metformin, then my diabetes will go away, right?
Yeah. Again, your diabetes will be managed.
Right.
And as you go down the road, right, so this is an interesting thing that pharmacists know this, but most medical doctors don't. Nobody on the street knows this. Again, it's not the drug, it's how it's used, right? Thank God for, Novocaine and penicillin. So when a drug is metabolized in the human body, when you swallow a drug, it exerts a metabolic influence in the body. It pushes some biochemical pathways this way and suppresses others. It upregulates the biochemistry of your body, which is made out of essential nutrients. So as the drug works in your body, it burns through your essential nutrient levels, which were low to begin with.
Right.
So this is why when, for instance, you get put on a blood sugar medicine or a blood pressure medicine, it works pretty okay for 6 or 7 months, and then it stops working. And then they need to increase the drug, increase the dose. Then they need to add a second drug or a third drug or a fourth drug. Why is this? Because the action of the drug has made your essential nutrient levels lower than they were to begin with.
Right.
You don't think the pharmaceutical industry knows this? You don't think the people that are making the drugs are smart enough to understand this?
Right.
What would happen if they put essential nutrients in with the drugs? They'd need to sell less drugs.
Yeah.
It's not a good business model.
Not a good business model.
And they can get away with it because they're the king. And, it's good to be the king. You can do whatever you want when you're the king.
My clients are just always thrilled when they're able to, get off insulin and metformin in under like 6 weeks.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you wouldn't believe, well, you would believe.
Yeah.
But most people wouldn't believe the things that myself and my colleagues have seen people recover from. And look, we need to make one thing very clear here.
Yeah.
This is not a guaranteed panacea cure-all for all human ills. That's why I entitled my latest book, Attempt a Cure. Because once people get into our arena, once people see the light and they jump the fence from allopathic medicine to naturopathic medicine, there are different degrees of damage which have already been done to their body. And there is a point of no return. Beyond which the body just can't fix it. There is. So we intervene. We counsel people to stop eating food that's gumming up the works. We counsel people to swallow nutritional supplements that are easily absorbable, that fill their body's nutritional tank and attempt to get on the other side of the illness.
Right.
And, that's a really smart thing to do. And everybody needs to do it. But this is the best kept secret in the wonderful world of the modern age.
Right.
And into the bargain,
Yeah.
because this is a patently holistic intervention, when you are, attempting to get on the other side of arthritis or a blood sugar issue or migraine headaches or menstrual cramps or restless legs at night in bed or heartburn or whatever it is that's ailing you, with a holistic method, as your chief complaint brightens up, a lot of other things brighten up as well. Your mood gets better. Your energy gets better. Your sleep gets better. Your little minor aches and pains get better. Why? Well, because the body knows how to fix itself. The body wants to fix itself. The body is trying to fix itself all the time. And now, for the first time in your life, your body has had the raw materials that it needed to do that. And your body's ability to fix itself is
right. And I
much greater than anybody has led you to believe. And it's a remarkable thing.
Yeah, and I personally, and I think you'll agree with me, but I personally think that diabetes, pre and type 2, are pretty easily reversible. I mean, I think it's very easy, actually. I hate to say that, but I look at diabetes like cancer. I think I don't see cancer and diabetes very different as far as the body's ability to be able to reverse itself if you give it the right things. Now, I know people are going to disagree with me on that, but I don't care, because I was able to reverse my cancer, and I've seen too many times with some of your methods and with learning from you and just with coaching clients that diabetes is not type 1, because we all know what type 1 is, but pre and type 2, it's depending on the stage, it's pretty simple to reverse.
Yeah, because as far as we're concerned, those things are driven by nutrient deficiencies.
Yeah.
And what do? You give the body the nutrients it needs. I mean, It's not really any different than taking your car in for a tune-up.
Right.
New oil, new transmission fluid, top off the water, right? Put air in the tires, put oil in the you make it all better, and the car runs.
Right.
And if you didn't do any of that, right? If you never took your car in for a tune-up, ever, and if every time you put gas in the tank, you put half a tank of unleaded and half a tank of diesel fuel,
what's going to happen?
It's only a matter of time until that car craps out. And there's nothing wrong with the car. You just put the wrong fuel in it and you never tuned it up. Well, that's exactly what we do to our bodies. And, then we're amazed that
Mhm.
all these things start to happen. And then we look around at all our friends, and son of a gun, the same thing's happening to all of them. So we think to ourselves, well, that's just life. No, it's not.
Right.
It's life under the care of conventional medicine, which is great for trauma care, but horrible
Mhm.
for everything else.
I wish we had time today to talk about a ketogenic diet, but we don't, because we all know what the ketogenic diet is doing for people with disease, right? We'll have to schedule time just to talk about the 12 bad foods and all of that another time, because that's a whole nother topic, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much to learn
So
and
much.
know and understand here. I mean, I'm surprised we were able to pile as much into what little time we had today. I think we did a good job.
Yeah. So what I want to do is I want to talk about your book. You've mentioned it. This book, you guys, by the way, is brilliant. It is such a good manual for anybody out there that's struggling with a certain ailment. It's full of amazing information. So I would recommend that you guys all get it. And here's the kicker, is that Dr. Glidden is giving you guys a special deal just for my listeners. So if you go to his website, drglidden.com, and you get this book, you're going to get it for 50% off. Thank you, Dr. Glidden, by the way. That's so incredibly nice of you.
Yeah, well, we need to rising tide lifts all boats, and people need to be exposed to this information because nobody knows this. Well, a handful of, there's less than 5,000 licensed naturopathic doctors in the whole world, and there's less than 200 that have more than 30 years of clinical experience like myself. So we are rare birds. We need to put this information out. I'm happy to help.
Yeah.
The coupon code, by the way, to get the 50% off is Terry, all uppercase, TERI. You'll get the book at 50% off. I talk about 88 different illnesses in the book and what the medical doctors think about it and what the naturopaths think about it and how they treat it and how we treat it. It's a self-help health recovery manual. It also gives you a little bit of historical understanding of how we got into the pickle that we're in right now, and I'm very, very proud of it.
It's brilliant. It's so good. I've read the whole thing twice already, and I still go back and look at it. And you have some other books too. The Emperor Has No Clothes. I've read that book. That's amazing. You can get that on Amazon. So if you want to stalk Dr. Glidden like I have been doing, you can find all of his information on his website, and he has a membership site, and he's just amazing. I would highly recommend that you do that. The other thing I want to say before we close is that thank you, Dr. Glidden, for your time today, but also I'm so happy and honored that you were able to write the foreword for my new book, Refuse Diabetes, which is coming out in June. Thank you for that. And it's going to be such an amazing guide for people who are struggling with type 2 and prediabetes, who don't know what they need, who don't know where to go and what to do. And I coach you a lot in the book, as you know, and so I'm just very proud of that too. So thank you.
Well, my people are destroyed by lack of knowledge. And, it's not like the frustrating thing here, Terry, that you understand, is it's not like this information is hidden. I mean, the diabetes stuff was uncovered in 1957. The reason that it's not mainstream is because of the medical monopoly. And it's not in the interests of the pharmaceutical industry to issue in a cure for anything. So this information has always been there, but everybody is neglecting it. And it's up to people like you and me and other people who are willing to stand up and be counted just to say, hey, look, you know what? There is another way. I think you should probably give this a try. Do a little in-house experiment for 90 days and see how far back your body can bounce, because once again, your body's ability to fix itself is 1,000 times greater than anybody has led you to believe.
You're amazing. You're amazing. I hope we can do this again real soon. Thank you so much. And to everybody out there, again, to get Dr. Glidden's book, you can go to his website and you'll get the book for 50% off with the code Terry, capital TERI. And I will also be listing in the comments here where you can get my new book, Refuse Diabetes, that Dr. Glidden wrote the foreword for. And then I'll put his links and stuff in all the information below this video. So thank you so much, Dr. Glidden. You are the bomb. I appreciate your time today. And I hope my listeners learned a lot. I'm sure they did, because as I always learn from you, and my mouth is like to the floor every time I listen to you. So
it's my pleasure, Terry Dale. Keep up the good work. I think that The things that you're doing are much more important than you realize that they are. So never, ever, ever give up.
Thank you.